Good morning everyone. Thought I'd do an update on the rain that we got last night. Precious little. So that's the 5 mil mark. 4, 3, 2, just over 1 mil. How pitiful is that? That's actually just for it to stand on, so I've got it being held up in that at the moment. So yes, there's that 1.5 mil. Precious little rain, fortunately. Ah well. Grateful for what we did get, because everything is just starting to grow fantastically. I really should have strung up this grapevine a bit better, but I haven't had grapevines before. So, and this was here when we bought the place. So yet to figure out what to do with it. Looks like we've got a self-sown pumpkin or something down there. And another one over there. Actually, it is pumpkin, because I had Davey here and I gave him pumpkin. So yes, that all will be pumpkin that's come up. So, and as you can see, the grass down here, this section of the property is actually really grows quite well. And I've had Davey through here as well, so he's fertilised the area nicely. But yeah, I've got to milk the goats, so I will be back shortly. But yeah, so all the grass there is growing really nicely. But then when you look over here, see, this section hasn't been overgrazed. But when you look over here, now it's got cobbler's pegs coming up. I'm going to have to come in and pull those out. I really don't like cobbler's pegs. But when you come over here and you look at this section here that has had no animals grazing on it for a while, but it was overgrazed by the previous owners, the grass is just not recovering. This paddock's been sectioned off since we got the water tanks put in. I'll leave a link up there for when the water tanks got done, which wasn't that long ago. But this area just is not recovering, not half as well. I mean, that spot's just doing really well. But this section, it's been overgrazed quite badly. Of course, the section near the house obviously hasn't been overgrazed and has been mowed regularly, well, reasonably regularly, not by us. Although I have been moving the goats around a fair bit. I have to bring the goat in here. The goat will clean all this up. Davey will do a good job with this. He'll enjoy these weeds. And goats really like cobbler's pegs, which I don't. I do not like cobbler's pegs at all. So I will gradually move Davey along here. Free food for the goats. Why would I buy them hay when I've got all this lovely grass for him to eat? I just got to keep the car away from him. But yeah, those two ponies are still my friend's ponies, because we bought the house from my friends. So, and it's taking them a little while to get their animals sorted out. Hang on a minute. So yeah, that paddock, it's just all weeds. There's nothing in there for the ponies to eat. So we've got a lot of work to do on that one. This paddock has mostly had no animals in it, although you can see where we've moved the goats up and down the driveway. It's recovered beautifully, absolutely amazingly. Interestingly enough though, that paddock hasn't had animals on it at all. And that's actually where I've got the goats at the moment, over behind those aviaries, which are about to move today, hopefully. But yeah, that paddock hasn't had animals on it, but it's just not growing back well. This is doing better. This was overgrazed as well, but we've had it fenced off from all the animals, mostly, except for my goats, in here. Oh, I've had the chickens. I moved the chicken along the fence line, just because that's where I had the goats, so I followed them with the chickens. Followed Davey with the chickens. I had the goats on here for a little while, I got my little mulberry tree in there that goats keep eating. Self-sown pumpkins. They do well when we get enough rain. That was my paddock experiment, which actually did really well, but we just didn't get enough rain early enough. So it all died off. But it was barley seed that I put down anyway. But Davey's come through and eaten all the big grass, because there was really big grass in here. And he got his little house stuck on patches. Look what he did to the water dish. My goodness. Goats. But let's check out where I had the goats. I really shouldn't be wandering out here. My foot's quite sore. But yeah, so I had the goats in that section for a bit. You can see there's a definite difference on how well this grass is growing to the rest of the paddock. On that spot over there is just doing fabulously. Fabulously. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. I'm really pleased with that. That's growing better than even that first section. So the goats had been there for a little while, but the goats were in that spot for a significant length of time, and then I moved them over so that they were more over in that area. So I moved them over to that side. So that little bit has had longer to recover. It'll be interesting to see how this bit looks shortly. I mean, it's starting to come back nicely too. Lots of little seedlings coming up. And this was because I couldn't move the electric fence because the poultry net was just stuck. It was just stuck. And this was where I had the goats last before I just moved them. So it is recovering really, really nicely. Really nicely. I'm really pleased with that. And I mean, you can see the difference. There's lots of different types of plants growing up. There's still big patches, but we've been in a severe drought in the Lockyer Valley for a number of years. We've only just moved here recently, so we haven't been here the whole time. So we're just catching the tail end of the drought. And hopefully it's going to break completely this year. That'd be nice. Let's see if I can take this post out. It's still stuck. Still stuck. Oh no. Just had to wiggle it a bit. Got it out. So yes, that was in the ground. I couldn't get it out earlier when I took down the rest of the fence because the ground was just too hard. And that is the big problem I'm having here, and why I haven't been able to move my goats around as much as I'd like, because the ground when it's dry just gets too hard. Way too hard. But it is going to be super interesting to watch what happens over the next few years with these paddocks. And it's especially interesting to watch where the goats have been and where the goats haven't been in the same paddock. Really, really interesting. At least I'm finding it interesting. I mean, from a permaculture perspective and a holistic management perspective, I was expecting this or hoping for it, but yeah, really, really pleased, especially with that section there, because it got hammered. The goats were on there. It wasn't good for the goats. The goats got a really heavy worm load because they were just there too long, but I couldn't move them. And I didn't have shelters anywhere else either, and because of the accident, I haven't been able to move the IBCs around like I used to. So I've got IBCs there, I've got the roofing there, I've got the Bessa bricks there, but because of the accident, I haven't been able to move them as much. So this area of the paddock got hammered. It really had a heavy amount of hay put on it, as well as goat droppings. So the goats have fertilised the paddock significantly. There's you've got the poultry net there that's been broken, and the goat net there that's been broken. The goat net's really old, but the green poultry net, that was useless when we first got it. Well, not useless, because it gave the girls a much bigger paddock, because we got a bit of rain, so I was able to put that fence out. But then various choices and mistakes were made, and someone tried to pull the posts out of the ground when it was too hard, and used a hammer to pull them out of the ground and broke them. So now the green net, which was already having problems with its posts, has even bigger problems. But yes, I guess that's just what happens. So I'm hoping to actually take the posts out of the goat net, which has been broken by the girls jumping through it because somebody else left the fence off. Which you can't do. If you're using an electric fence, you need to leave it on. It needs to stay on all the time. So yes, but you can see the difference here. This is the grass where the goats have not been. I mean, look at that in comparison to how well that's coming back. In another week's time, I'm really looking forward to coming out here and seeing what's happened out here and what the growth difference is. I'm finding this really interesting, just watching and observing nature. And that's one of the principles of permaculture. Observation, very important. And one other thing that I've been observing is the ant mounds. Now, I think my neighbour at Eagleby told me that the ant mounds get bigger when there's a flood expected. So when the ants, for some reason the ants seem to know when it's going to rain. As most of you know, rainy weather comes, that's when the ants all come out. You can't get rid of the blessed things. But I seem to think that he told me that the ant mounds get a lot bigger when rain's coming and when there's going to be a flood. So, I don't know if any of you know, but turn to the ant, you sluggards. It keeps running in my head. You can see, obviously, where these ant mounds have been increased in size, because they used to all be that colour. The new sections are all that. And every time we've gotten a bit of rain, the ants have built up their ant nests a bit higher. At least it's been obvious that they've been built up a bit higher. And there's been a couple of spots where the boys have actually damaged the ant mounds, and you can see where they've been repaired. So if anyone knows, let me know. Is this a sign that there's going to be a flood? Is this something that the old-time wisdom, for want of a better word, looks at and says, yep, there's a flood coming, prepare for floods? Which, with the weather predictions, we're supposed to get higher than average rainfall this year, or this summer. Although so far this year we have had under average rainfall for this area. But yeah, just a bit of a question. But I've got to walk all the way back to the house now. And I've still got to milk the goats. I should have milked the goat before coming out. I got distracted by goats. Davy was tangled up, and then I wanted to check the rain gauge. I'm really bad. I get so distracted so easily. There's so many things out here that are interesting that I want to look at, like ant nests. And my paddock to see how well it's greening up. So yes, there's just so many things I want to do, and I'm with my foot and my hip. It's causing me a lot of frustration, but I have to be patient. And honestly, part of permaculture says that when you move to a property, new property, don't do anything for 12 months, just observe, look at what's happening, check it out. So in some ways I'm hoping it does flood so that I can see what happens when it floods. I have checked the council maps and spoken to the locals to see where the flooding actually goes. And that's one thing, but it's another thing to actually witness it. So yeah, anyway, that's the update for today. But there are ant mounds popping up everywhere. This is actually a really light load of ant amounts in comparison to some of the properties that I drive past. But yeah, anyway, have a great one. Bless you.